Ambassador Daniel Wright sat at his desk in the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime. His office window showed the strange purple sky of this alien world. 3 giant moons hung visible even in daylight. Daniel still wasn't used to the view after 6 months as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the stack of reports. First contact had happened just 3 years ago when a Centaurian ship entered Earth's solar system. 2 years later, humans had been granted observer status in the Galactic Council, a gathering of over 30 intelligent species who managed interstellar affairs. Ambassador Wright? The voice came from his communication device. It was Lisa Chen, his assistant. Yes, Lisa. There's an urgent message from the Council. Your presence is requested immediately in the Grand Chamber. Daniel frowned. Unscheduled meetings were rare. Did they say what it's about? No, sir, just that it's urgent and concerns Earth directly. I'll head there now. Have Sam meet me with any relevant briefings. Yes, sir. Daniel stood and adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform, a dark blue suit with Earth symbol, a blue and green circle with an olive branch on the left chest. Humans were still learning proper council etiquette, and appearances mattered tremendously to many alien species. 20 minutes later, Daniel and his aide Sam Peterson hurried through the massive doorway of the Grand Chamber. The room was immense, built to accommodate beings of all sizes, from the tiny Nexari who stood barely 30 centimeters tall to the massive Vordolac representatives who towered at 4 meters. The chamber was arranged in rising tiers, with each species delegation having their own section. All seats were filled today. Daniel noticed with growing concern that many eyes, optical sensors and sensory appendages turned to watch him enter. The room hummed with the strange mix of whispers, clicks, and electronic communications that indicated intense discussion. Something big is happening, Sam whispered. I've never seen a full attendance. Daniel nodded grimly. Find our seats, stay alert. They moved to Earth's small observer section, set near the back and lower than full member species. As they sat, the chamber lights dimmed slightly and the Grand Arbiter Zixval floated to the central platform. The Grand Arbiter was a Lumidian, a crystalline being that glowed with inner light that shifted colors with their emotions. Currently, Zixval shone with formal blue tones as they addressed the gathered representatives. We call this extraordinary session to order. The Grand Arbiter's translated voice echoed through the chamber, though the words came through Daniel's translator earpiece in English. He could hear the original harmonic tones underneath. Today we present the findings of the Cultural Assessment Committee regarding humanity's petition for full council membership. Daniel straightened. This was unexpected. Earth's formal application wasn't supposed to be reviewed for another 6 months. The committee has completed its evaluation of human civilization and culture, continued Zixval. Their assessment will now determine our approach to further human integration into galactic society. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing Earth from orbit. The image zoomed in to show cities, then human faces. From various countries and backgrounds, a new voice spoke, the chairperson of the assessment committee, Ambassador Krell of the Draconian Confederation. The reptilian diplomat's scaly face appeared on displays around the room. Esteemed colleagues, Krell began, his forked tongue flickering between sharp teeth. Our committee has spent 1 standard galactic year studying human history, culture, sociology, and psychology. We have reviewed their conflicts, their treaties, their art and literature. We have compared them to the developmental patterns of all known intelligent species. Daniel leaned forward. Initial interactions with the Draconians had been positive. They seemed to respect human resilience. Our findings are conclusive, Krell continued. Humans exhibit a troubling characteristic that sets them apart from all council species. They are fundamentally war-fearing. Murmurs broke out across the chamber. Daniel felt his blood run cold. War-fearing? Sam whispered in confusion. Is that supposed to be an insult? Daniel held up his hand for silence, listening intently as Krell elaborated. Evidence for this assessment is abundant. The Draconian continued as images of human peace treaties, the United Nations and diplomatic meetings flashed in the holographic display. Humans have created numerous institutions dedicated to avoiding armed conflict. They consistently choose negotiation when confrontation would be more efficient. Their recent history shows a marked decline in direct warfare. Daniel couldn't believe what he was hearing. The committee was presenting humanity's greatest achievements, our progress toward peaceful resolution of conflicts, as a weakness. Furthermore, Krell went on, humans express collective guilt over past conflicts rather than pride in their victories. They teach their young to seek compromise before combat. They devote significant resources to preventing violence within their own societies. The holographic display showed scenes from Earth's history, peace marches, diplomatic summits, handshakes between former enemies. In all known galactic civilizations, species progress through necessary periods of conflict that establish natural hierarchies and drive technological advancement. Humans actively work to suppress this natural order. This suggests a fundamental cowardice that makes them unsuitable as full council members. Sounds of agreement echoed through the chamber. Many species were nodding, clicking, or flashing lights in their cultural gestures of concurrence. Daniel felt a growing anger. The council had completely misunderstood humanity's greatest strength. The assessment committee recommends not only rejecting Earth's petition for full membership, Krell concluded, but also reconsidering their observer status. A war-fearing species cannot be trusted to make difficult decisions in times of galactic crisis. They would prioritize temporary peace over necessary action. The Grand Arbiter's crystalline form shifted to a yellowish hue. Thank you, Ambassador. Krell, the Council will vote on this recommendation in 3 standard days. Does Earth's representative wish to make a statement at this time? All eyes in the chamber turned to Daniel. He stood slowly, mind racing. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding. It was a fundamental difference in values that threatened humanity's place in galactic society. The Earth delegation requests time to prepare a formal response before the vote, Daniel said, keeping his voice steady despite his anger. Granted, the Grand Arbiter replied. Earth may present its case at the beginning of the voting session. This meeting is adjourned. As representatives began filing out, Daniel remained seated, stunned by what had just happened. Sir? Sam looked worried. What do we do? Contact Earth immediately, Daniel said grimly. Then gather the entire embassy staff. We have 3 days to change the minds of 30 alien species who think our pursuit of peace makes us cowards. As they left the chamber, Daniel noticed the Varkonian delegation watching him with what looked like satisfaction. The warlike Varkonians had opposed human inclusion from the beginning. This development certainly pleased them. Back at the embassy, Daniel paced in the communication room while technicians established a secure line to Earth. His mind was already forming a plan. The Galactic Council had called humans war-fearing. They had no idea how wrong they were, or how passionate a response they were about to receive. The Earth Embassy buzzed with frantic activity. Daniel had called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. Staff members rushed in, carrying data tablets and looking worried. The room filled quickly with diplomats, cultural specialists, and military liaisons. Daniel stood at the head of the long table. His face was grim as the last person took their seat. I assume you've all heard what happened at the council meeting, he said. The staff nodded. News traveled fast on Centauri Prime. We have 3 days to change their minds about humans, or we might lose our place in galactic society entirely. Olivia Martinez, the embassy's lead cultural specialist, raised her hand. Sir, I've reviewed the council's assessment. Their logic is completely backward by our standards, but it makes perfect sense from their perspective. Explain, Daniel said. Olivia tapped on her tablet and the wall screen displayed information about various council species. Most council members evolved through extreme competition. Their planets had harsh conditions and limited resources. Species that didn't fight constantly simply died out. She showed images of alien worlds, barren deserts, frozen wastelands, and toxic swamps. Their histories show constant warfare until technology made total war too dangerous. For them, peace isn't a goal. It's just a pause between necessary conflicts. So, when they see our efforts to maintain peace, Daniel began, They see a species refusing to participate in what they consider normal development, Olivia finished. To them, our peace treaties look like surrender agreements. Our United Nations looks like a way to avoid making hard choices. Captain Kevin Barnes, the military liaison, spoke next. It's worse than that. I've been analyzing data from our intelligence section. The Varkonians have been feeding the Council carefully selected information about Earth. He showed examples on the screen. Images of peace protests, diplomats shaking hands, and children playing together. They've presented these as evidence of weakness, not strength. They've hidden all evidence of human courage and determination. The Varkonians want us out, Sam added. They've opposed human inclusion from the start. Daniel paced around the table. We need to change how the Council sees us. Not just with facts, but with something that will make them feel the truth about humanity. What truth is that, sir? Asked Lisa Chen. Daniel stopped pacing. That humans don't fear war. We respect it. We've learned from it. We choose peace not because we're afraid to fight, but because we're brave enough not to. The room fell silent as everyone considered this idea. We need examples, Olivia said finally. Stories and images that show human courage, not just in war, but in choosing peace when that's the harder path. And we need to explain human history, properly, Kevin added. Show them that we've tried the path of constant conflict. We learned it doesn't work. Daniel nodded. Break into teams. I want historical examples, personal stories, military analyses. Anything that shows the true nature of humanity's relationship with conflict. We have 48 hours to prepare the most important presentation in human history. The staff dispersed quickly, each with assigned tasks. Daniel returned to his office to make the most difficult call of his career. When the secure line to Earth opened, Secretary General Allison Cooper's face appeared on the screen. Her expression was serious as Daniel explained the situation. This is worse than we anticipated, she said when he finished. If the Council labels us as cowards, we'll be excluded from everything important: trade agreements, technology exchanges, security alliances. I know, Daniel said, and a simple denial won't work. They need to understand us on a deeper level. The Secretary General was quiet for a moment. What are you planning, Daniel? Something unconventional. I want to show them our passion as well as our reason. I want to respond to their insult not with diplomatic language but with honest human emotion. Allison raised an eyebrow. You want to get angry at the Galactic Council? I want to show them what human anger looks like when directed at injustice, and I want to show them why we choose not to let anger guide our actions. She studied him carefully. This could backfire spectacularly. Yes, Daniel admitted. Or it could make them see humans clearly for the first time. After a long pause, she nodded. You have my authorization. Full access to whatever historical records you need. I'll have experts standing by to assist. Make them understand us, Daniel. I will, he promised. Over the next 2 days, the embassy worked around the clock. Olivia and her cultural team gathered stories from human history, not just of wars, but of brave peace efforts. They found examples of former enemies becoming allies, of soldiers showing mercy, of ordinary people standing against tyranny. Kevin's military team prepared analyses of human conflict. They created simulations showing that humans hadn't abandoned war out of fear, but had instead channeled that same determination into other pursuits. They gathered data on how many weapons humans had developed and then chosen not to use. Lisa coordinated with Earth, collecting personal stories from veterans, peace activists, and diplomats. She found powerful examples of human courage in many forms: physical bravery, moral courage, and the strength to forgive enemies. As the information poured in, Daniel worked on his presentation. This wouldn't be a typical diplomatic speech. It needed to break through alien psychology and reach something universal. On the evening before the council vote, Daniel called his team together one last time. They looked exhausted but determined. Tomorrow, we'll decide humanity's place in the galaxy, he told them. I've reviewed everything you've prepared. It's excellent work. Will it be enough? Sam asked. Daniel looked at each of them. I don't know. The Council has never faced anything like what I'm planning. It might shock them. It might offend them. But they will never again think that humans fear war. What exactly are you going to do? Olivia asked. Daniel smiled grimly. I'm going to give them a history lesson they'll never forget. And I'm going to do it the human way. With passion, with anger when appropriate, and with absolute honesty. As the meeting ended, Kevin stayed behind. Sir, I finished the military capability assessment you requested. Are you sure you want to include this? Some of this information is classified. Daniel looked at the data. It showed Earth's true military potential, not what they currently had, but what they could create if they chose to. Yes, Daniel said, quietly. They need to understand that peace is our choice, not our only option. That night, Daniel didn't sleep. He rehearsed his speech, reviewed the presentation materials, and prepared himself mentally for the most important diplomatic moment of his life. Tomorrow, he would show the galaxy who humans really were. Not war-fearing, but something far more complex and far more formidable. The day of the council vote arrived. Daniel stood in his office looking at his reflection in the window. Today, he would not wear the standard diplomatic uniform. Instead, he wore a simple dark suit with a small pin showing Earth's flag. Today, he would speak not just as an ambassador, but as a human. There was a knock at his door. Olivia Martinez entered carrying a data tablet. Everything is ready, she said. The presentation materials have been uploaded to the council system. Kevin and the others are already at the chamber. Good, Daniel said. He took a deep breath. Let's go make history. They walked together through the corridors of the massive council building. Aliens of various species moved aside, watching them pass. Word had spread about today's vote, and many were curious to see how humans would respond to being labeled war-fearing. Remember, Olivia said quietly, most council species show respect through confrontation. If you want them to listen, you need to challenge them. That won't be a problem, Daniel replied. The Grand Chamber was even more crowded than before. Every member species had their full delegation present. In the visitor sections, journalists and diplomats from non-council worlds waited eagerly. This was the biggest story in the galaxy today. Daniel and Olivia took their seats in Earth section, joining Kevin and the rest of the human delegation. The atmosphere was tense. Nervous? Kevin asked. No, Daniel said, surprising himself with the truth of it. I'm angry, and that's exactly what we need right now. The lights dimmed, and Grand Arbiter Zixaval floated to the central platform. Today the crystalline being glowed with formal green tones. This council meeting is now in session, Zixaval announced. Today we vote on the recommendation to revoke Earth's observer status based on the assessment that humans are fundamentally war-fearing and therefore unsuitable for galactic cooperation. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Before the vote, the Arbiter continued, Earth's representative has requested to address the Council. Ambassador Wright, you may approach the speaker's platform. Daniel stood and walked to the center of the chamber. All eyes followed him. The speaker's platform rose slightly, placing him in full view of all council members. A silence fell over the massive room. For a moment, Daniel stood perfectly still, looking at the gathered aliens. Then he did something no human had ever done in the council chamber. He slammed his fist down on the podium with all his strength. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. Several delegates jumped in surprise. You call us war-fearing? Daniel's voice boomed without the need for amplification. His tone carried unmistakable anger. You who have never seen your cities burn? You who have never walked through the ashes of a nuclear strike? You who have never faced extinction by your own hand? The chamber was completely silent now. Even the usually chatty Nexari delegates were still. Let me tell you about humans and war, Daniel continued. He pressed a control, and the holographic display activated above the chamber. Images. Appeared vivid, terrible images from Earth's history. The destroyed cities of World War II. The wasteland of Hiroshima after the atomic bomb. Civil wars that tore countries apart. the chamber filled with scenes of human conflict spanning centuries. "This is our history," Daniel said, his voice dropping to a near whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. "This is what we know about war, not from stories or simulations, but from experience." He looked directly at the draconian delegation. "Ambassador Krell, your assessment called humans war-fearing because we create institutions to maintain peace, because we teach our children to seek compromise, because we feel remorse for the conflicts of our past." Daniel's voice grew stronger. "You have mistaken wisdom for fear. You have mistaken restraint for weakness. You have mistaken our greatest strength for a failing." He touched another control. The terrible war images faded, replaced by new ones. Humans rebuilding cities from rubble, former enemies shaking hands, children from once warring nations playing together. "Humans do not fear war," Daniel said. "We respect it. We understand its cost in ways you cannot comprehend. And because we understand it, we choose to avoid it when possible." Daniel nodded to Kevin, who activated the next part of the presentation. The holographic display showed Earth's military development through history, the progression of weapons from swords to nuclear arsenals. "A species that fears war does not develop these," Daniel said. "A species that fears war does not send its young to die for ideals. A species that fears war does not produce heroes who sacrifice themselves for others." New images appeared. Soldiers rushing into danger to save comrades, civilians standing against tanks, medical workers treating wounded enemies. "Humans choose peace not because we must, but because we can," Daniel continued. "And that choice, that restraint, is the most difficult form of strength." He paused, letting his words sink in. Then he activated the final part of his presentation, the classified data Kevin had prepared. The display showed Earth's true military potential if fully mobilized. "This is what humanity could become if we abandoned our war-fearing nature," Daniel said quietly. "This is the path we choose not to take, not from fear, but from wisdom learned at terrible cost." The council chamber remained silent as the implications became clear. Earth could be a significant military power if they chose aggression over cooperation. "You have misunderstood humanity," Daniel concluded. "We are not defined by fear of war, but by the courage to choose something better. We have faced our demons. We have seen the worst we can become, and we have chosen a different path." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, optical sensors, and sensory organs of various delegates. "Judge us if you wish," Daniel said, "but judge us for who we truly are, not for what you assume us to be." With that, Daniel stepped down from the platform and returned to his seat. The chamber remained silent for several long moments. No one had ever addressed the council with such raw emotion or direct challenge. Grand Arbiter Zixval's crystalline form had shifted from formal green to a deep purple, a color humans had never seen the Arbiter display before. "This council will take a brief recess to reflect on Ambassador Wright's presentation," Zixval announced, their voice sounding different somehow. "We will reconvene in 1 standard hour for the vote." As council members filed out, many could be seen in intense discussions. Some looked at the human delegation with new interest. Others seemed disturbed or confused. "Did I go too far?" Daniel asked his team quietly. Olivia shook her head. "You spoke the truth, they needed to hear it." "What happens now?" Sam asked. Kevin Barnes looked around at the departing delegates. "Now we wait to see if they understood." Daniel watched as the draconian Ambassador Krell paused near the exit, looking back at the human delegation with an unreadable expression. The Varkonian representatives huddled together, clearly unhappy with how things had gone. "Whatever happens," Daniel said, "they will never again mistake us for cowards." The hour-long recess felt like days. Daniel and his team waited in a small side chamber near the council hall. No one spoke much. They had done all they could. Now the fate of humanity and galactic society rested with alien species who had completely misunderstood them until today. "What do you think will happen?" Sam finally asked, breaking the silence. Daniel looked up from the data tablet he had been pretending to read. I don't know. We challenged their most basic assumptions about us. Some will resist that challenge, others might reconsider. I've been monitoring communications channels, Kevin said quietly. There's a lot of chatter among the delegations. Your speech is all they're talking about. Olivia, who had been studying the council's body language during Daniel's presentation, added her thoughts. The Draconians seemed surprised but not hostile. The Lumidians, including the Grand Arbiter, showed color changes indicating deep emotional response. The Varkonians were clearly angry. And the others? Daniel asked. Mixed, she replied. But many showed signs their species used to indicate respect. You challenged them directly, which many council cultures value. A soft chime sounded, signaling that the council was reconvening. They gathered their materials and walked back to the grand chamber. The room had a different energy now. Delegates whispered to each other as the human team entered. Some pointed subtly at Daniel. Others seemed to be studying the humans with new interest. As Daniel took his seat, a tall, blue-skinned delegate from the Tellurian Republic approached. The Tellurians were known for their logical, analytical approach to galactic politics. Ambassador Wright, the Tellurian said in a melodic voice. Your presentation was unexpected. Daniel nodded politely. I spoke the truth as humans see it. Yes, the Tellurian replied. That much was clear. I have served on the council for 60 years, and I have never witnessed such honest emotion in these chambers. It was educational. Before Daniel could respond, the lights dimmed, signaling the start of the session. The Tellurian bowed slightly and returned to his delegation. Grand Arbiter Zixval floated to the central platform once more, the crystalline being now glowed with a deep blue color that humans had never seen them display before. This council session will now continue, Zixval announced. Before we proceed to the vote, the assessment committee has requested to amend their report based on new information presented by Earth's representative. Murmurs of surprise spread through the chamber. This was highly unusual. Ambassador Krell, of the Draconian Confederation, stepped to a secondary platform. The reptilian diplomat's expression was difficult for humans to read, but his posture seemed less aggressive than before. Esteemed colleagues, Krell began. The Cultural Assessment Committee has reviewed Ambassador Wright's presentation. It has become clear that our initial analysis of human civilization contained significant misinterpretations. Daniel exchanged surprised glances with his team. This was unexpected. Humans do not avoid conflict from fear, Krell continued. They avoid it from experience. Their history shows a pattern unlike any other known species. Not a failure to develop through necessary conflict, but a deliberate choice to find alternatives after experiencing conflict's ultimate cost. The holographic display activated, showing some of the images Daniel had presented, but now with new context. Their peace institutions are not signs of weakness, but sophisticated systems developed through centuries of trial and error. Their diplomatic approaches represent advanced cultural evolution, not regression. Krell looked directly at the human delegation. The committee acknowledges that we applied standard developmental models to a species that follows a unique path. This was an error. Kevin leaned close to Daniel and whispered, I can't believe what I'm hearing. The Draconians never admit mistakes. The committee therefore withdraws its recommendation to revoke Earth's observer status, Krell concluded. Instead, we recommend further cultural exchange to better understand humanity's approach to conflict resolution, as it may offer valuable insights to the Council. As Krell returned to his seat, the chamber erupted in discussion. Species from all corners of the galaxy debated this surprising reversal. Grand Arbiter Zixval raised a crystalline appendage, and silence gradually returned. In light of the committee's amended assessment, we will now vote on a modified proposal. Rather than voting to revoke Earth's observer status, the Council will vote on whether to advance Earth's application for full membership. This is most irregular, but these are irregular circumstances. Daniel could hardly believe what he was hearing. Not only had they avoided losing their position, but they might gain full membership years ahead of schedule. Those in favor of granting Earth full council membership indicate now, Zixval announced. Voting panels lit up across the chamber. On the main display, a counter tracked the results. Daniel watched as the numbers climbed. The Tellurian Republic? Yes. The Draconian Confederation? Yes. The Lumidian Collective? Yes. The Nexari Alliance? Yes. One by one, most delegations voted in favor. There were some exceptions. The Varkonian Empire and their closest allies voted against. A few species abstained, but the final tally was clear. By a vote of 24 in favor, 4 opposed, and 3 abstentions, Earth is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately, Zixval announced. The crystalline being's color shifted to a bright gold. Ambassador, right, please approach the central platform. Daniel stood, still somewhat stunned by this turn of events. He walked to the platform where Zixval hovered. In my 3 centuries serving this council, the Grand Arbiter said, their voice carrying throughout the chamber, never have I witnessed such a profound shift in understanding between species in a single session. The Arbiter extended a crystalline appendage. From it emerged a small glowing symbol, the official emblem of council membership. On behalf of all member species, I welcome humanity to full participation in this body. Your perspective will be valuable. Daniel accepted the emblem, feeling its weight in his hand. Thank you, Grand Arbiter. Humanity is honored to join the council. We have much to learn from other species, but perhaps we also have something to teach. Zixval's colors shifted, and what Daniel had learned was their equivalent of a smile. Indeed, Ambassador, today has proven that quite clearly. The ceremony continued with formal protocols, but Daniel's mind was already racing ahead. Full membership meant access to advanced technologies, trade agreements, security alliances, everything Earth needed to thrive in the galactic community. As the session ended, delegates from many species approached the human delegation. Some offered congratulations. Others requested meetings to discuss human approaches to conflict resolution. A few simply wanted to observe these strange beings who had challenged the council so directly and succeeded. The Varkonian delegation left without speaking to the humans. Their opposition would continue, Daniel knew. But now Earth would face it as a full council member, not a vulnerable observer. We did it, Olivia said quietly as they prepared to return to the embassy. We actually did it. Daniel nodded, still holding the council emblem. We showed them who we truly are, not who they thought we were. What happens now? Sam asked. Daniel looked out at the gathered species from across the galaxy, beings who had completely misunderstood humanity just hours ago. Now, he said, we build something new together. 3 months after Earth gained full membership in the Galactic Council, the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime had tripled in size. What had once been a small diplomatic outpost was now a bustling center of interstellar relations. New staff arrived, daily from Earth to handle the growing workload of treaties, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges. Daniel Wright sat in his new office, larger than the old one but just as cluttered with data tablets and diplomatic documents. Through his window, he could see the strange purple sky he had finally grown used to. Construction crews worked on a new Earth Cultural Center next door, where aliens could learn about human art, music, and history. A chime sounded at his door. Come in, Daniel called. Lisa Chen entered, carrying yet another data tablet. Sorry to interrupt, Ambassador, but the Secretary General is on a secure line from Earth. Daniel nodded. Thank you, Lisa. I'll take it now. When the door closed, Daniel activated his communication screen. Secretary General Allison Cooper appeared, looking tired but pleased. Daniel, she greeted him. I just received the latest reports. From our new trade agreements, Earth's economy has grown 12% since we gained council membership. The new medical technologies alone have saved thousands of lives. That's excellent news, Daniel said. How are people adjusting to all the changes? Better than expected, Allison replied. Having alien visitors in major cities is becoming normal. The educational exchanges are extremely popular, and the public approval ratings for our galactic policies are at 87%. Daniel smiled. In just 3 months, humanity had begun to find its place in the wider galaxy. Any problems I should know about? The usual concerns from some quarters about moving too quickly, and the Varkonians are still causing minor diplomatic issues. She shrugged. Nothing we can't handle. Your team has done remarkable work, Daniel. Thank you, Madam Secretary. But the real work is just beginning. After they finished their call, Daniel reviewed his schedule for the day. First, a meeting with the Tellurian delegation about scientific cooperation. Then lunch with the Draconian Ambassador Krell, who had become an unexpected ally. In the afternoon, a tour of the new human history exhibit being prepared for alien visitors. A soft knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Olivia Martinez entered, looking excited. "Sir, you need to see this," she said, activating the main screen in his office. The screen showed an educational center on the Lumidian homeworld. A group of crystalline young ones, Lumidian children, were gathered around a human teacher. The teacher was showing them images of Earth and explaining human customs. "This is happening all over the galaxy," Olivia said. "Species that never showed interest in other cultures are studying humans. They're fascinated by our history, especially how we've handled conflict." Daniel watched the scene with amazement. "They're trying to understand us. Not just understand," Olivia corrected, "learn from us. The Tellurians have started teaching conflict resolution methods based on human models. The Draconians are reviewing their educational systems. Even the Nexari have created new diplomatic training programs inspired by human approaches." The screen changed to show scenes from various worlds across the galaxy. Alien species studying human history, art reflecting human themes, and diplomatic meetings using human-style negotiation techniques. "We've started something, haven't we?" Daniel said quietly. Olivia nodded. "Something important." Later that day, Daniel walked through the nearly completed human history exhibit at the Cultural Center. The exhibit had been designed to help aliens understand Earth's complex relationship with conflict and peace. It began with humanity's earliest wars and progressed through history, showing both the terrible cost of violence and the hard work of building peace. Kevin Barnes joined him as he examined a display about the United Nations. "Impressive, isn't it?" Kevin said, looking around. 3 months ago, they called us war-fearing cowards. Now they're studying our peace institutions as models for their own. "Not all of them," Daniel reminded him. "The Varkonians and their allies still see our approach as weakness." "True, but they're the minority now." Kevin pointed to a group of alien visitors examining an exhibit about the International Court of Justice. "Most species are at least curious about how we've managed to reduce conflict without losing our edge." They continued through the exhibit until they reached the final section, which showed humanity's current place in the galaxy. A large display showed Earth's new status as a full council member. "Ambassador Wright," a voice called from behind them. Daniel turned to see Grand Arbiter Zix Vol floating toward them, the crystalline being glowed with formal blue tones, but with hints of the gold that indicated pleasure in their species. "Grand Arbiter," Daniel greeted with a respectful bow. "This is an unexpected honor. Welcome to our cultural center." "I wish to see this exhibit personally," Zix Vol replied. "It has generated much discussion among council species." They moved together through the exhibit, the Grand Arbiter studying each display carefully. "Your history is instructive," Zix Vol said after a long silence. "Most species in the council evolved through constant competition, as your cultural specialists have noted. We never considered that another path might exist." Daniel nodded. "Humans learned our lessons the hard way. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. Yet you found another way," the Arbiter observed. "Not from fear, as we mistakenly believed, but from wisdom." They reached a display showing Earth's potential timeline if humans had continued on. A path of constant warfare. The simulation showed environmental collapse, societal breakdown, and possible extinction. "This is what we chose to avoid," Daniel explained. "Not because we feared fighting, but because we saw where it would lead." Zixaval's colors shifted to a deep, thoughtful purple. In my 3 centuries, I have learned that true wisdom often comes from unexpected sources. Humanity has much to teach the galaxy, Ambassador Wright. And much to learn, Daniel added. The Grand Arbiter made a gesture of agreement. The exchange of knowledge benefits all. That is why I have come today with a request. What kind of request? The Council is forming a new committee on alternative conflict resolution. We would be honored if Earth would lead this initiative. Daniel was stunned. Such a position would give humanity significant influence in galactic affairs. I'm surprised by this offer. You should not be, Zixval replied. Your species has demonstrated unique approaches that many in the galaxy now wish to study. Your angry reply to being called war-fearing showed us something we had never seen before, passion in service of peace. After the Grand Arbiter departed, Daniel stood by the window of the Cultural Center, looking out at the alien city that had become his home. Visitors from dozens of worlds moved through the streets below. On the horizon he could see the massive council building where, 3 months ago, he had changed the galaxy's perception of humanity with a single passionate speech. His communication device chimed with a message from Earth. The Secretary General had approved the Council's request. Earth would lead the new committee. Daniel smiled. From being called war-fearing to leading a galactic peace initiative in just 3 months. Humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun, but they had already found their voice and the universe was listening.